uh, the likely rationale for not putting it on postpone. It is clear from what I hear about the House Republican caucus, they took a caucus position on it because the Illinois Medical Society is quite generous to their caucus. And you heard, I think it was Representative Kay, a new Republican representative, who spoke eloquently on the floor and spoke about how politics was standing in the way of reform. I think his statements, were, his speech on the floor was well stated and eloquently stated. He realized that members of his caucus were forced into taking a caucus position because of contributions from the Illinois Medical Society.
And he voted president.
He voted president. Yeah. So there's nothing that John Bradley uh, can do to offset the Illinois Medical Society's influence on the House Republican caucus. Would I have liked to have negotiated a bill that, the Illinois Medical Society and Illinois Hospital Association was more comfortable with? Yes, but once Senator McCarter put out a bill that said it was going to be 30%, the business community latched on to that 30%, and negotiations was all about compromise, and that was something they were not willing to compromise on, and I respect that. And in the spirit of negotiation, I didn't try to move them off of that anymore, because the medical fees associated with workers' comp cases are, half of the cost in a $3 billion system. And so if we were going to achieve savings, we needed significant cuts to the medical fees. We're second in the nation. Alaska's always first. We're second in the nation in terms of medical fees associated with workers' comp cases.
But what about, were you surprised about the lack or the level of Democratic support? There were a whole lot of present votes. Did you think that they were thinking that they could have another bite at the apple, or
yeah, I think there were some present votes. Some people said they were present because they practice, or their firm practices workers' compensation. I know a few people were in that boat. I think some people had other reasons that were reasons of conflict why they voted present. I don't know why every member voted present in that caucus, but we did. 55 votes, and that's a strong majority of the caucus. If you remember, in here we had a strong bipartisan vote coming out of here, because even members on the Republican side of this chamber who wanted other things in the bill knew that this bill was too good to say no to. It was too much of a great opportunity to reform our system. And it's frustrating. It's truly frustrating, having spent hours and hours and hours and hours negotiating this bill and trying to move reform into the Illinois Industrial Commission. I come at this from somebody who's practiced and who's represented employers in the past at the Illinois Industrial Commission, and so I knew the need for reform there. This wasn't something that was just political for me. This was an opportunity to reform a system that I know needs reform.
So what happens next? Do you call the blow-up bill?
I'm going to have a conversation with the Senate President about that, and sometimes I guess, if people are unwilling to reform something, the best thing to do is start from scratch.
Well, everyone kind of assumed that was more of a bargaining chip, but, can it be a reality now?
I think it can, and I think that's the only way to force people into reforming the system.
Right. Thank you.
Have you had any kind of conversation? Do you know what a vote count would be on that? Do you see a situation where you end up with one chamber passing one proposal, another chamber? We just sit here with the status quo?
Well, I know when I talked about calling it yesterday, there were calls from the other side of the aisle says, call it. And so, I assume that means they'll support it.
But
so
the
we'll see.
Democrats in the Senate who voted for the plan that passed out the other day, will you stand up in caucus tomorrow morning and say, I want you to now vote to blow up the system?
If I have an opportunity to do so, yes. And it's not just to blow up the system, is to take apart a system that is flawed in order to rebuild it. And in the interim, while we attempt to rebuild it, the court system would be able to handle the claims, because our Illinois Constitution is clear about the fact that people will have to have a remedy, an opportunity to remedy their injuries.
Right.